I didn't even get to start the video yet. And you're already on my lap. You wanna be in my Batman video, huh? You like Batman. You look like Batman. Yes. Hey everyone, it's TrashKat and Claude. Welcome back to The Reading Room, the place where we discuss books, manga, comics, movies, anime, games, and whatever else I feel like talking about. Today, we'll be talking about Justice League. Yes, I've fallen into the trend. I can't help myself. I'm a huge DC fan. How could I not? Another chance at a live-action Justice League? That's all I've ever wanted. Today, I'll be comparing the original Joss Whedon cut to the new Zack Snyder cut. If you hadn't figured it out by now, there will be spoilers for both versions of the movie. And if you've seen the original, there will be different spoilers for the new one. So we're just gonna jump right in. Let's get started with the characters. Considering the Snyder cut is twice as long as the original film, there are going to be some additions to the characters and their backstories. I figured I'd just run through the heroes first and then move on from there. The main trio, that is Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, suffered the least from the Joss Whedon cut. Superman, despite, or maybe because of, his popularity, has the least amount of screen time in this movie. At the end of Batman vs. Superman, he is stabbed by Doomsday's hand knife bone thingy and dies. Even at the end of this movie, we're treated with like a split-second image of the ground levitating off of Superman's coffin. So to me, it was really weird seeing all this confusion in the original cut on how they were gonna resurrect Superman. Are we gonna do it? Should we do it? Why would we do it? He's gonna come back. I mean, this is straight up comic book reference. The Death of Superman comic is not new by any stretch. Honestly, the biggest difference for Superman between the Joss Whedon cut and the Zack Snyder cut is the color of his suit. No, seriously. His fight with Steppenwolf is much more badass and serious. His hits are more ruthless. The black suit is great. Surprisingly, I had like a little tinge of wow, Superman's kind of cool in this movie, to the point where I have a really hard time wrapping my head around why they would bother to change his suit to its original color for the Joss Whedon cut. I don't know. If it harkens back to the comic, why would you change it? I think it all has to do with DC being too afraid to alienate their younger audience by making Superman more gritty and with the darker colors. But hey, the dude died. He's allowed to wear black if he wants. Anyway, there are definitely some differences in the Batman scenes, but not as dramatic as some of the other characters. Believe it or not, one of my favorite changes in the Zack Snyder cut was when Bruce Wayne goes to find Arthur Curry. He's in the middle of this group of people who are all talking smack about him in Icelandic. In the Whedon cut, they all just carry on making jokes and making fun of him, but in the Snyder cut, Bruce clips back at Arthur Curry in Icelandic, which is such a Bruce Wayne thing to do. I was expecting it in the Joss Whedon cut. These are the little touches in the Snyder cut that make it worth pushing through that 4-hour marathon. Another cool thing about the Snyder cut was that we actually don't see Batman in his suit until, I'm pretty sure, the halfway mark. This makes his entrance so much cooler. Batman's introduction in the Whedon cut was low-key cringy. Also in the Snyder cut, Batman isn't as weirdly obsessed with resurrecting Superman as he was in the original, which was a huge improvement in my opinion. His role in both big battle scenes is also improved. In the Snyder cut, he's responsible for taking down the huge shield that covers Steppenwolf's base, and this makes it clear for the rest of the team. I'm not gonna lie, even in the Snyder cut, I'm a little disappointed with Batman's role. I thought he did a lot of cool stuff in Batman vs. Superman. He may not be the ultimate Batman, but I liked the angsty "I'm gonna kill you now" kind of vibe they were going for. But here in this movie, I feel like he just got lost among all the other characters. He's supposed to be one of the big three. I mean, I have a crap ton of Batman comics. He's my main man. They could have done him better. But let's move on. Wonder Woman gets a few small changes, but they had a huge impact on me. Her introduction scene is edited so differently. I'm not sure if the music is the same in the Whedon cut, but every time the subtitles called it Ancient Lamentation, which, whatever. every time that played, I felt my lifespan increase by like 5 years. I felt like I could take on all 5 of the Astari, plus Godzilla himself. It's ridiculous. And she clearly kills people in this version, which her whole thing is that she's not a superhero, she's a warrior. Warriors kill people. I mean, she cuts Steppenwolf's head off in the end. And I was so into it. I mean, why did they cut this? I mean, I get why they cut it, but still, again, they're trying not to alienate their audience with too much violence, but come on, let a girl chop off some heads. Marvel got away with cutting off Thanos' head, I'm pretty sure, so why couldn't Justice League do it? Honestly, I don't know too much to say about Aquaman specifically. There are a lot more scenes involving Atlanteans, but I didn't really notice too much different with Aquaman himself. Aside from some different jumps into the water, some changes in the music, and they dropped some comedy lines. Sorry if you guys are Aquaman fans. Not. I like Jason Momoa, but that doesn't mean I have to like Aquaman, okay? But really, where we see our big changes are with Flash and Cyborg. Flash was done so well in this movie. I just loved it. Honestly, he wasn't too bad even in the original, but he's just so elevated in the Snyder Cut that it's wild. His introductory scene is completely different and it's so cool. I don't understand. I know I've said this so many times. I don't understand why they cut it. I mean, maybe it's because I'm super into DC and I don't mind watching another 4-hour movie about all of these characters. But I don't think I'm the only one that would have wanted to see these scenes in the original, but it's whatever. Barry is given a lot more power in this cut, and I mean that literally. They cut his comedy relief role and really gave him some things to do. He does so much more for the plot and the end game that it should be a crime to see what they did to him in the original cut. But I'll talk a little bit more about Barry when we talk about the story. Now, Cyborg 2 actually has an entire segment of the Snyder Cut dedicated to his story arc. I only really know Cyborg from the original Teen Titans and the occasional comic that I've picked up over the years. I'm currently reading Cyborg Unplugged, which is really good. I'll be sure to post a full review on my blog later if you're interested in that. But he is intense in the Snyder Cut where he was bland in the original. His relationship with his father is a little sugar-coated for me if you're used to the comics, but that's fine. We still get the general idea of what Cyborg stands for, whereas in the original, he almost feels like just a moody robot. His mother is completely cut out of the original as well, and we're left almost entirely without Vic's inner hatred and his eventual resolution with himself. So we see him going full circle in the Snyder Cut, instead of being left as a loose end as in the original. I also want to say that his design looks a lot better in the Snyder Cut, but I could be wrong about that. I felt like in the original, Cyborg looked a little fake, like his armor was too polished or something, and that actually brings me right into Steppenwolf's character, because I don't really like his design either, and he doesn't look like his comic book counterpart in either cuts. Now, I will agree that he definitely looked too CGI'd in the original, but he still looks like that in the Snyder Cut to me, just in a different way. Like Cyborg, his metallic armor looks almost too perfect, too shiny. Now, if you've seen both versions of the film, it's pretty obvious the differences in Steppenwolf's character, because he's not in charge anymore. And this greatly affects his motivations, which made 0 sense in the original cut. In the Snyder Cut, clearly, he's trying to get back in the good graces of some sort of evil power. To be honest, the whole relationship between Darkseid and Steppenwolf was super confusing in this movie, because Steppenwolf is actually Darkseid's uncle, but in the movie, it's his nephew? What? Which, I don't really know why they changed this. Maybe they thought an uncle shouldn't be scared of his nephew, but I don't know. I'd be scared of someone with a jawline like that too. I don't care if he is my nephew. Now, if we weren't talking about the Snyder Cut, Darkseid wouldn't even be on our list. Something that is absolutely bizarre to me. I know I've said this like 12 times in this video, but this might be the worst crime of all. Why did you cut Darkseid? They cut out the character that makes the audience want more. Why would you cut content that would make your audience invest further in your story? I just don't get it, because for one thing, you make your unfamiliar audience interested in further storylines, and you get your comic book fans who are like, holy shit, that's Darkseid! Monetarily, it makes 0 sense to me, but I don't work in marketing, so I think I'm gonna take this opportunity to segue into some story content. I have more characters I want to talk about, but I'll just throw them in at the end. I want to keep the narrative rolling as best as I can, because, I mean, obviously, Darkseid is the biggest change, story-wise, between these two cuts. We go from a gimmicky, action-oriented, shallow superhero film to something with a dark, underlying plot with a lot of moving parts. Now, the Snyder Cut is too long. It's not exactly a chore to sit through, but it is really long. It's hard to keep track of a lot of the little things that happen in this massive storyline. There are a lot of underlying things between Bruce and Alfred. Diana has a lot more interesting scenes with the backstory, and we get some information about the new gods. An entire group of Amazons is sacrificed to keep the first box away from Steppenwolf, which was so metal. I mean, literally, just look at this.
I have come to enlighten you to the great darkness. I will bathe in your fear.
Daughters of Themyscira, show him your fear! We have no fear!
Oh my god, this gave me chills. I replayed it at least 7 times. Also, one of my favorite additions to the Snyder Cut was the mention of the anti-life equation. If any of you are familiar with the comics or the subject of the anti-life equation, this made your jaw drop, as it did mine. I think it was a scene between Steppenwolf and Desaad, and they're discussing finding something on the planet, and I'm thinking, no way. Are they talking about the anti-life equation? Because they can't do that, right? No way. But Snyder was like, yes way. And I'm so ready for that to continue. I want more of that. I'm ready. I want this grittiness to stay, and I never want to see that silly comedy that was in the original. Don't get me wrong, a lot of the jokes were good. Batman and Flash have some really cool banter, but it made the action feel cheap and unimportant. We don't want that here. You know, like I said earlier, Flash deserves better, and he got better in this cut. Something I was not expecting. Flash turns back time. Flash turning back time has always been so OP that they find ways not to put it in storylines. But this was perfect. The end fight involves everyone. We don't just see Flash like going off saving some random Russian family. No, he's in it. And underestimating Flash has been the focal point of so many superhero films that this is perfect. Seeing Snyder use Barry to his full potential was so satisfying. So thank you for that. So before I move on to the setup, I did want to mention just a few of the extra characters that they kind of threw into that Snyder Cut. If you've seen the Snyder Cut, Martian Manhunter was one of the biggest surprises that you were hit with about a quarter of the way through. J'onn J'onzz was always one of my favorites watching that original cartoon, so seeing him appear in something as big as this was just great. He doesn't look great, but you know, that's fine. He looks good enough. I like that it's been implied that he's been hiding out in the military this whole time, because that's usually what he does. J'onn J'onzz is usually in the background. The brief little cameo at the end with Deathstroke, not enough. I was first introduced to Slade through Teen Titans. Not that crap that's playing now, I mean the original, the good one. But cartoon and comic Slade are super cool, and is actually where they got the inspiration for Deadpool. Don't know if you guys knew that. You can also see some additional Slade screen time in Green Arrow. I haven't gotten that far in the show, so I can't attest to its quality, but it's there and it exists. And then finally, I almost missed this one, it was really quick. We get a little mention of Adam. Ryan Choi is one of the scientists at Star Labs, and apparently Snyder wanted him to have his own movie? What? I don't follow Adam or anything like that, but seeing smaller superheroes in big films is so cool. Now maybe one day we'll see a film with Dr. Fate? Right? Can somebody do that? Girl can dream, right? So as for the setup, there's one big main difference, and that would be the aspect ratio. The Snyder Cut is done in 4:3 ratio because Snyder wanted it to be optimal for IMAX theaters, which nobody ever got to see. Thanks. It was really noticeable the first few scenes, but after a while, it just, you know, I didn't even really notice it. I don't think it really affects your view of the movie unless you're really picky. Also, the lighting and the coloring is very different. Obviously, the Snyder Cut's going to be darker, it has more blue tinge, makes for a much moodier experience. Other than that, I mean, we could talk about the story and how it's presented technically, but I think we've talked about that enough for today. So, what's the final decision? Whedon or Snyder Cut? Honestly, it's hard to even rate them against each other because they feel like completely different movies, but you know what? Let's give it a try. For the Whedon Cut, we have a dismal 5 out of 5 screams. And for the Snyder Cut, we have 10 out of 10 screams. Now listen, I can fully acknowledge that maybe Zack Snyder's Justice League is not a 10 out of 10 film, but hear me out. When you sat through the original Justice League right before, it certainly feels like a 10 out of 10 experience, let me tell you. Therefore, with double the rating, Snyder Cut wins. Finally, before I let you guys go, I wanted to leave you with some recs. If you're looking for good Justice League content, you cannot go wrong with the original cartoon series. If you've seen the Snyder Cut, that means you have HBO Max. That means you have access to the Justice League cartoon. Check it out, it's great, I love it. Same thing with the Dark Side content I wanted to recommend, which is Justice League War, another cartoon. However, this is for adults, and it's a movie. This kind of feels like a sequel to the Snyder Cut we might never get, as we're getting to see the Justice League go toe-to-toe with Darkseid himself. I'm also a big fan of bats in this movie. Nice and sassy. And finally, if you're looking for something outside of the animated realm, I recommend Space Odyssey. If long-running comics aren't your thing, Space Odyssey is for you. Space Odyssey can be read as a standalone storyline and is only 4 chapters long. However, it's 4 chapters of absolute top-tier quality. Again, we've got a Darkseid Justice League storyline, including a plot dependent upon the anti-life equation. Also, you can't go wrong here because it's illustrated by Mike Mignola, who created Hellboy, another great series. So, if you're looking to fill out your Snyder Cut knowledge, these are for you. As always, check the links down below for where to follow me, including Twitch, Instagram, and my blog. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content. This is TrashKat signing off.